Gather round, friends. It's time for Officials' Tales. Hosted by three retired sports referees that coaches throughout Northern Ohio knew as the Three Blind Mice. They are authors of the book called Officials' Tales. So let's meet the authors and your hosts, Jimmy Borgia, Rick Hall, and Don Nardecchia for today's edition of Officials' Tales. Now here's your host, Rick Hall.
Welcome tonight, everybody. We got another special show on tap. We got Allyn Schnellinger, younger official, that came up under our ranks, and we taught him all the bad things to do, and he succeeded anyways. So I'm going to bring on my brothers in crime. Hey, Nardo, how's South Carolina today?
77 and not much breeze, but we're starting to hunker down. The weekend looks tough for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. So
it looked that way when I saw it.
Sleep with both eyes open on Saturday night here.
There you go. And now I'm going to add in one-eye Borgia. Between the three of us, we got 5 great eyes. Right, Jimmy?
Yes. I've been told that.
So how's your rehab going? Oh, and by the way, it's for his heart, not his head or his alcohol.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't drink that much alcohol anyway. Oh, coming along good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking.
Be our lifetime driver now.
Yeah, he could be our Yeah, think about that. All you got to do is learn how to put the gas cap back in your damn car.
Yeah. We'll save that for another story. Yeah.
That's one of the best in the book, I'll tell you.
And speaking
one of the best, yeah.
And speaking of the book,
people, please, these two guys were drunk. So take it as it is.
Oh shit! And speaking of the book, we do have a special going on, and we will have a special coming up for Father's Day. It is going to be available at the Common Good, and it's still available at the Common Good. But we are going to run a Father's Day special coming up. Look for that. It's going to be exciting. If you haven't got it and you can't get there, go to Amazon. You can get the hardcover, the soft cover, or the ebook if you're techie like Jimmy. So, other than that, let's bring on our special guest tonight, Al. Now, Al is a Norwalk guy, grew up in the area. And if you look behind his head, you'll see a picture of him. He was on the wall of there's Al, the wall of fame in Norwalk. And I just found out from Al that for a long time it was above the boys' outhouse, right? The boys' bathhouse. I wonder why that was. I mean, who'd you piss off?
Should have told him, Al.
You know what? As a plumber's kid, I was very comfortable above the boys' crapper. I liked being there. It was very comfortable for me.
But hey, Al, thanks for being with us tonight, Al. We're excited to have you. And like I was saying before, it was a pleasure working with you and seeing you come up through the ranks, basketball and football. I know Don and I had a blast working football with you. It was always great. Basketball as well. And I will tell you this, you're one of the few guys. Now, I saw you earlier this year, and you are one of the few guys that do like we did. You actually talk to the kids. You actually talk to the coaches, and you have a good time. It's a game to you.
It is.
And I can't really express enough to you. We try to get that across to everybody we talk to across the board. Any guys that are coming in, gals either. It's a game, guys. It's an extracurricular. Let's have some fun out there. And I watched you work a game, and and anybody that can work an 8th grade boys basketball game, in other words, referee purgatory, is an ace to me. So, all right, now I'm going to turn it loose. You go ahead and just give me a little background of yourself and give us a couple stories.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be with the mayor of the rec center here, Borgia, next door. For God's sake, the mayor.
Well, just the pool area. Just the pool area.
King Linguini and the mayor of the rec center right there.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
I will tell you when I first started, and one of the things that I thought that and that you guys did that I appreciated more than anything was the fact that when I first started, we kind of came up very unconventionally. A lot of guys come up, and I don't know how you guys did it, but a lot of guys come up and they basically come up as solos. They come up as guys, and they basically what I call pimp themselves out to wherever gym, wherever they can go, whatever conference, and they'll go solo. They'll go solo to Cary on a Tuesday night, or they'll go solo to West Holmes or something like that. And we chose not to do that. My partner, I've had a partner for my whole career, Chris Harkness. Chris and I took the class together, and we've been partners. And we decided early on, it was kind of funny when we'd start working with guys, and we quickly figured out, and you guys know this as officials, that I was a better official when I was with somebody I was comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And that's why doing tournament games for me is always kind of even tougher, not because of the environment, it's because I'm working with guys that I may never have seen before.
Yep.
And so when Chris and I realized early on, we're like, dude, I'm more comfortable and I'm a better official when I'm with you because I know what you're going to do, and so we kind of so when we were kind of coming up, it took us a little bit longer to get to varsity because we were like, signers were like, hey, Al, I want you to go to Mapleton by yourself. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Mapleton. I'll go with Hark and I'll go with somebody else, or I'll take my crew, but I don't want to go solo. And so a lot of us signers kind of were put off by that. We were fine with that. We were like, that's fine. We understand that. And so we did a ton of JV. We were at JV for a long time. And I think one of the biggest thing that happens to these kids today that come through, male, female, I don't care what you are, is the fact that these kids are coming through and they are being rushed to varsity. They are in such a hurry to get there. And you said it, Rick, earlier. 8th grade purgatory is a great place to learn. Doing JV games is a great place to learn. Do those games and do them for years. We did them for a bunch, and I'll tell you that the night that really changed us was the night that LeBron came to Willard. The night LeBron came to Willard, we had the JV game. So it was Scott Ensley and Harkness and myself. Well, this was the same night that St. Paul was playing in the football championship. So we're driving to Willard, for God's sakes. And I'm driving and they're in the back seat or whatever it is. And we're listening to the football game. And St. Paul gets the ball on the 1 yard line there at, with 5 minutes to go, whatever it was. And all of a sudden we're putting in the parking lot and we're like, and so Chris coached with John, Scott played for John. I graduated with John, and so we're all very connected to St. Paul's, and so we're like, so all of a sudden we're sitting there, we're going, well, we're not going to leave the game. So the heck with what's going on in there. I know we were parked way out in the back. We're like, what? We'll start stretching. So we're on the parking lot stretching. I got my car radio turned up to max. When we're out there stretching, and so finally, I think it was Dave Ball, the AD at Willard, called my phone. And he goes, dude, where are you guys at? It's like 10 minutes to 6, and we're going. We're listening to St. Paul. They're on the 1 yard line. They just called timeout, And he goes, Al, the game. We got the game on the tube, and we're going, we don't ever make it in. So we listened to St. Paul run it in. I lost a bet on that, by the way. I thought John was going to throw first and then run it. I didn't think he'd run from the 1 yard line with no timeouts with 10 seconds left. So I lost money on that one. So we went in, we dropped our bags, and reffed the first half. So at halftime, Bob Haas comes in. Bob was announcing the varsity game. So Bob comes into our locker room, and he comes in at halftime, and he goes, what are you guys doing this JV game? And we told him, we said, listen, we can't get signers who don't want to break us up. I said, they all want to break us up. They all want to, do this and that. I said, and we just don't want to. We're friends. We've been friends for years. And he kind of goes, you're wasting your time at JV. You're ready for varsity. And I'm like, well, I don't know we are. How do I know? Well, when Bob House says you're ready, right? And so we went out, did the second half. And at the end of the game, I'm sitting there and we're showering. And this guy walks in and I'm like, he goes, hey, he goes, what's your schedule like for next year? And I looked at him, I go, who are you? I don't even know who this guy is. And it was Jim Oberlander, who's the assigner at the time at the NOL. and Jim Oberlander comes in. He goes, I'm Jim Oberlander. I signed the NOL. I said, oh, well, it's nice to meet you. And he goes, and I kind of looked at him and I go, what, why all of a sudden the change? I said, because I tried to get a hold of him and I couldn't get a hold of him. And he goes, well, you got the Haas endorsement. And I started laughing. And he goes, when Bob says you're ready, you're ready. And I thought, okay. And so we started doing varsity the next year in the NOL. Now, what was funny was we did varsity for a full season in the NOL before we did a varsity game in the Firelands or the SBC.
Oh, yeah.
So we were still doing JV in the Firelands Conference and JV in the SBC, but doing varsity in the NOL. And it was just weird. And so it took us a little bit longer, and we took a more conventional route. But I really have zero regrets about it, just because, we did it our way. We did it the way we wanted to do it, and I'm still a believer that everybody should do time at JV. And then when we first started doing varsity, I remember one of my first games was with you guys at Toledo Central Catholic. So you guys called me up and you took me solo. And I remember I said, okay, I'll go solo with you guys. We were okay with it because we knew you guys and liked you guys. And so I remember
two of us.
You took Ensley. Well, you took Ensley and Harkness and myself all solo to a couple games that like when we first started out. And I'll tell you, it really it made me feel like I knew what I was like I made the right decision, only because you guys are, like you said earlier, Rick, you're similar to us, very relaxed, very comfortable. I remember going to Toledo Central Catholic and the coach jumped you about something. I don't even remember what it was. And you just smiled at him. You just smiled and said, yeah, nod your head, smiled at him. And I'm thinking, yeah, how's he get away with that, for God's sakes? And you're just very calm. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, and so it, when you're coming up, and like I said, we didn't work with a lot of other people. So to work with somebody else and then see that you similar to us made it a lot easier for me. So it made me very comfortable and made me know that I was on the right track. So,
well, I'll tell you, I knew you guys were in the right track I knew you guys were on the right track when you and me and Scott did the King James tournament, which I wrote a little story about in the book. and when we worked in that atmosphere, with those guys, that coach from New York that kept cursing and stuff, and I had to go talk to him, and I was, well, you'll read it in the book, but it's funny as hell. And I was like, these guys are ready for prime. I mean, we saw athletes.
Well, Evan Turner was there. I remember Evan Turner was there. Who was the other kid that was there? The big time kid. We didn't have. I don't remember if we did Turner. I remember we did that New York team, and they had a monster kid.
Yeah, remember that big kid that jumped at the middle, and he said he was 18, and I laughed at him. Dude, he was huge.
You look like you were about this tall, for God's sake.
I know, and he had tattoos up both arms. And I said, anyway, son. He goes, I'm 18, sir. And I'm like, bullshit.
Dude, those are during the Danny Almani days. We needed to check an ID on that cat.
I know. It's like bullshit.
Well, okay. And the other thing about that tournament, if you remember, and I think this was the same tournament, Drew Joyce wanted us to take like a 7-hour break and come back. And we were like, no. So and he got so mad at us because we had done like 2 or 3 games. And then he's like, hey, you guys have like a 7-hour break. And we're sitting there going, dude, we ain't doing no 7-hour break. I said, either you send us to another gym and work us or we're going home. And he had a schedule nice. And I remember going up to him and saying, hi, see ya. And he goes, you're leaving this tournament? I go, dude, I'm not waiting 7 hours. I said, my time's a little more valuable than that. And we hightailed it out and we were like, thank you. Have a nice day. You know?
Yeah.
But going back to that Central Catholic game that you talked about. Now think about this. Now, anybody that's never been to Central Catholic, I've worked football and basketball there. But if you go to Central Catholic, that's the palace.
Oh,
right? You remember walking into that place and looking down, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that in itself is overwhelming. But to come to that level of athleticism and be able to handle it, that's the key, because we talk about it all the time. There's so much difference between working a Firelands conference game, no offense, and then working Central Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have boys and then you have men. I mean, these guys are
oh yeah. Yeah,
you know,
when you're doing firearms, you don't talk about above the rim in pregame. Typically, you don't have too much of that conversation. When you're doing Central Catholic, and I don't care who they're playing, you're talking about you're always talking about, hey, let's talk about above the rim here.
And I know that, and I know I speak for Don and Jim both. Working with all you guys, it was definitely a blessing, and it was so nice to watch you guys kind of like we stepped back, you guys stepped up. And it was so much. It's so fun to watch you guys and see that how you've taken where we were and then improved upon it.
Well, I don't know if I improved upon, but
I give Scott a bunch of crap when I see him. I know he's out now, but I give him. But I'll tell you, you guys have really, and I enjoy watching you. And even and you can see that, and I'll tell you, you can see you're comfortable in your skin, and that's the key to being a good official. I mean, Jimmy's Jimmy when he's out there. He's that goofy Italian, that everybody laughs at. He's the Mario to our crew. And you got Don, and you got Don, who's the rules interpreter. Thank Jesus, because he's probably the only one on the planet that's ever called a false double foul on somebody. And thank God, because we got
I think that makes a good crew.
Yeah,
I think what's funny is as we've talked about that a lot on our road trips and stuff. A lot, especially when Scott was around and Danny and Lindsley, when Danny worked with us, about the fact that each one of us is very different, and I think that's what makes it work pretty well. And you talked about how you guys are different, and I think that's what makes it. And on our crew, I'm the talker. I'll talk to anybody. I'm comfortable. I'll talk to a coach. I'll talk to a kid. I'll walk them through it. Blah blah blah. Hark won't talk to a coach typically unless they engage him. He'll talk to the kids, but he's usually much. He was reserved. Scott was the quiet one. Scott never said a word. Scott wouldn't. We actually had to have conversations with Scott and say, dude, it's okay. Engage with the coaches.
Wake
because
up.
What we found out was that. If you didn't respond to a coach, all it did was get him more irate.
Yep.
So just answer him. And Scott became great at. I will tell you, he and Harkness are the kings of the one-liners. They can give you a smart aleck one-liner in a heartbeat. I remember we did it. One of our first varsity games was at Bellevue, and I can even think of the coach. It was Walt Snyder. Good God, that's how long ago it was. And So he had no idea who Scott was. Now Scott's the leading scorer in the history of Huron County. Okay, all time. Okay, or City of Norwalk, not Huron County, City of Norwalk.
So maybe the same thing. Who knows?
Yeah. So we're doing this game, and Scott passed on a travel opposite of the coach. Third quarter, I'll never forget it. And I'm standing right in front of the coach. And he screams at me. He screams over my shoulder. He goes, Scott. He goes, can I ask you a question? And Scott looked at him and goes, yeah, what do you got? And he goes, do you know what a travel is? He goes, have you ever called a travel in your life? Do you know what one looks like? He goes, have you ever played basketball before? And Scott looked at him deadpan and goes, no, never played the sport. And just kept right on walking. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there with Harkness, and we're busting, we're gone, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I can't believe this, And I'm sitting there I have my head down, I'm like, and so he rides Ensley pretty hard for the longest time, and so the game ended, and finally somebody told him, hey, he's the all-time leading scorer, in the city of Norwalk, played 4 years at Mount Union, for God's sakes, as a point guard. And then he actually came in and apologized to Scott. He actually came in our locker room and apologized and said, dude, I'm, sorry. But Scott can go like that. Hart can go like that. I can't. I gotta think about it before I say something smart. I don't react well.
My first boys JV game, I had Walt Snyder as one of the coaches.
There you go.
When he was the JV coach
but I will tell you, we're all three
at Clyde. And they were playing at Perkins, and Ernie Checkeye was the baseball coach at Margaretta with my partner. And he tells me, whatever you do, don't do anything to let Walt know it's your first game. And then I got out there. I mean, he's nervousy and jittery and everything. And I got through it fine, But the next time I worked for him, he was a freshman coach, I think, at Bellevue, and it was over at the Little York gym in there. And the next time, he was the coach at Monroeville. And I got along fine with him for, all those times. But the big thing is that when I was coaching the girls golf team at the high school at Norwalk High, there were some girls that wanted to get a team going, and Walt ended up being the coach, and he and I got to be pretty good friends over the 5-6 years that he was coaching before I left to come south here and retired, and we got to be pretty good friends. But from way back, that first experience officiating high school athletics, and Walt was the guy that I officiated for.
He was a handful, and and it was funny. You would, and you guys know this better than I do. You go to some of these ref meetings, you go to the 4 or 5 ref meetings before you start, or even during the season, and you'd find out, you'd say, hey, you got to deal with this coach, or hang out, watch out for this guy or this girl or whatever it is, And I remember Pete, Walt used to be a little bit of a handful, and I think he calmed down. He knew what he was doing, but sometimes he get emotional and he just get worked up and stuff like that. But good dude. But
it's like that. We always used to tell coaches that that was actually one of our pre-games with the coach. We'd walk over, hey, the kid's properly equipped. Yeah. You got any questions? No. Well, we'd always say, well, if you have any questions, we'll answer them. Statements we handle completely different. So, and going back to your first game thing, I've told this a couple times on the show, but I don't know if you've heard it, but Don and I had a girls' game at St. Mary's, and we were working with somebody else. Jim Caldwell was the JV coach. We've known Jimmy for 100 years,
Oh yeah.
So, and this is a brand new varsity girls coach girl, lady. And I'm standing there getting ready to chop time right in front of her, and she goes, hey, I just wanted to wish you guys good luck, tonight. And I'm like, boy, I appreciate that. I said, it's me and Don's first game. And she goes, really? And Jim looks up at her and he goes, he's screwing with you. I'm like, oh boy. See, but that's how it's a game. You got to have fun out there.
Oh, you do.
So, hey, you guys got any quick questions for him before we pop on the videos and have some comments on those?
Hey, I'll tell you what, he talks about that thing with LeBron James, but he never mentioned that you guys were along with him. I never knew that until just now.
You know what's funny? And we never stayed for the varsity game that night either. We were not interested in it. We were like,
no. I'm talking about when you went up to King James's thing where, it's in the book. Well, it's in the book, but you didn't tell us who your partners were with you that day.
Oh, these guys are the best.
Oh, well,
I mean, I love working with these guys.
Actually, after that game, and I don't know if Rick was around during the end of that. What happened was, was that a guy came over to us and asked Scott if he was interested in doing the G League, the developmental league. And he goes, listen, he goes, have you ever thought about it? And then Scott was only like, first or second year when he did that with us, Rick, I think. He was real young.
Real young.
And Scott looked at him and goes, no, I never thought about it. Scott's he's an accountant, and all that.
Yeah, but he's got the look though.
Well, and that's exactly what the guy said. The guy goes, you're the kind of body that we're looking for. He goes, and he told me, he said, if you change your mind, I think he gave him a card or something like that, or gave him his number. Yeah. And he looked at me, and I'll never forget what he said. And I didn't really take it personally. He told me, he goes, you call a better game right now. He said, but I don't know what your body's going to look like in 10 years. He goes, that's the body I'm looking for. And I
true, though.
It is very fair.
Very,
yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Again, and I wasn't offended, because I'm sitting there going, yeah, I don't know what my body's going to look like in 10 years either. Now, Scott still can, run like a deer, for God's sake. He could ref in the G League today if you, whatever, know. And I'm not terrible, but I got his point. And I didn't take it that way, because I remember when I was recruited for baseball one time, And this is way back in the day. It was by the MLB Scouting Bureau, and I don't know if Narda would remember that. They had guys going around basically for all the teams at one time instead of individual scouts. And this guy came up to me, and he asked me who my mother was. And by the way, today's my mom's birthday up in heaven. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
There you go. And so my mom was a bigger woman. My mom had some issues, and so she was a big woman. And so the scout looked at me, and he wrote on my scouting report that he didn't know what my body was going to look like, and so he downgraded me because of it. And I actually showed up with my father the next time because my father was a big man. He was like 6'2", and looked like me, and it was not heavy. And so when that guy made that comment, I remember thinking the same thing. I go, that's just the way it is, and I wasn't, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is. And you were mentioning going to Toledo Central Catholic. I'm going to tell you right now, those people are A1 pregame partiers, because when I do football, when I've done football games there, I'll drive through. I'll pull in there at 5:15 or 5:30, and they are well oiled. They are ready to rock, baby.
You got that right. You got that right.
They are a 1 seed.
All right, guys. Now I'm going to pop in a couple of videos here. We're going to start off with Don's favorite.
Okay.
No,
hey, Rick, can you pop that up a little bigger? That little box down there.
And I think that's the problem.
Right at the end.
They try to play one-on-one basketball, but when Darius Johnson,
there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Look at that floor, folks. Look at that floor. Last night when I watched this thing, my thought was, my God, what am I looking at? What are they playing on? So I thought it'd be fun, guys, if we just play a little game here. Everybody, after seeing that, what are they playing on, or what's that remind you of, playing on something like that?
It looks like one of those old, like middle school floors that they use as a cafeteria. Where they got that shit on the floor, and you don't
the checkerboard
tiles coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it reminds me of. I'll tell you that right now.
Jimmy's got something.
Did you watch? I found out earlier today that they had something with a culture thing. That's why they designed that for.
Culture? What culture?
I think the culture of the league trying to build something up, but that nobody else has done anything like that.
I get it. It's 12. I get it.
Yeah, the bigger leagues have their own floor that they take with them if they move there. Like the ACC's in Charlotte. They've been at Greensboro for years. This year they're in Charlotte. They've been at Madison Square Garden. Just like the floor the Cavs play on, all these pro floors, they all come apart, stack, and neatly go in the back corner in a warehouse somewhere till they need them. So that's what they did. And this is the first time I've seen this. So I bet we'll see it for a number of years in the Big 12. Al, did you get a good look at it? And you have any?
Well, I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually there's a game on, and I got it on, and I think it's going to be. I would think it'd be difficult to ref on that from far away. I don't know, maybe not, but it looks very. It does not look like a. No, I don't care for it. I can tell you that.
It's weird. It's weird, and it reminds me a lot of like some of the NBA ones where they try to make it look really cool, but then the free throw lane is distorted, so you can tell it's a free throw lane. And it's like, whoa, what the? It's hard enough to keep these guys out of the paint and know where the damn paint is. I don't want it distorted, and then. I get it. Branding is branding. We brand our officials' tail stuff, but man, it's wow. Wow. But we have worked in places like this. Worked in parquet floors before.
Oh yeah, parquet floors.
And we've had the tartan floor at Wellington before they changed.
Well, that's exactly my first thought when I saw this, because that tartan floor was. That got popular because Michigan State had it when Magic and that gang went through up there. In the old field house, it is where they had that. And then when they went into the new arena up there, they left that thing. You're right. Wellington had it was almost like it was a It wasn't wood at all. It was almost like some kind of a fiberglass.
Yeah.
Like
a hard rubber.
It so that you could get a little grip. They had it down outside Marion, not at Pleasant, one of the schools just northwest of Marion, where Steve Gray used to coach. They had one there for a while. It buckled into one corner after rain came in the roof, just like a wooden floor would. And there are a couple other places that had it, but they came and went pretty quickly. I don't think that Wellington was especially fond of it. I know I wasn't, because your knees hurt the next day after running on it. And I went up to officiating camp at Michigan State, and the guys that had been there before knew that Robbie Lee and I were going up there, and Sam Radel, and they said, hey, don't wear your officiating shoes, wear running shoes on that thing, or you're good. I mean, we can't, all three of us came back with shin splints from all the running we did on the plane up there for 3 days. But it was an experience. But anyway, I thought that's what the surface was. My first thought is that looked like some kind of linoleum my grandma would have had in her kitchen. if she was fixing for the army, you know, a big kitchen. And then the day I thought about it, and I thought that would be perfect for the huge, spotless, immaculately maintained, laid out Bucky's bathrooms, the biggest on the earth. You ever been in the Bucky's store? How big how clean the bathrooms are and everything. That's what it would remind me of, something like that.
Yeah, right. What about you, Jimmy? You got a quick one, and then we're going to go to the next video.
No, it's like I said, you know, took it like a bathroom or you know, a floor into some cafeteria in high school or grade school.
Yeah. All right, now I'm going to queue up this next one, guys. Now, I know all of us have probably freaking seen this thing. This is a high school tournament game that at the end of the game, it goes awry for one official. We actually, our last show we had a lot of these, and we got quite a few comments about, you know, hey, you guys need to bring this one in. So I'm going to show you guys the video, and then you guys tell me what you think. So here we go. All right, I want you to notice who picks the ball up.
Ooh.
That was a coach from the other team, FYI.
Ooh.
Oh, more stuff being through. Holy smokes.
I've not seen this.
They got hit with a water bottle.
Now, this happened in Michigan.
Michigan, yeah, I saw that.
All right, I did do some research on that school. They know that's a known problem school. That they're known for bad sportsmanship. Now, a couple of things I want to mention before I get your guys' opinions. One, us as officials, we know once the horn sounds, we get the hell off the floor. Okay, we know that. Two, even though that's a thing, there's no excuse for an opposing coach to throw anything at an official after the game. Three, the school administration and athletic department should be ashamed of themselves for letting all this happen. So now you're our guest, Al. What's your take?
Well, first thing, if they know there's a problem, I'm surprised there's not more security. I would think if you know you have an issue, you know, you need to have extra security there. I'd not seen the video. I have not seen that one. And so I can't even tell you how appalled I am by that. I would be, I will run off the floor. Typically I can't speak for you guys, but typically I think I have a pretty good sense when the game is like that and I need to run off the floor versus whether I can just jog off the floor. can tell you I've not ran off the floor very, very few. I can't even think of maybe one or two where I thought, dude, you need to get the heck out of here.
Yep.
And so I'm, that referee must not have been aware that type of thing was going to happen, because maybe his locker room was behind the back there. I don't know, but I feel bad for him. I don't care how bad the man does. Nobody deserves that.
No, Jimmy, you haven't done a lot tonight. Tell us what you think.
Well, like you said, Al, in a game that I know I better get the hell off. I know which way I'm going out. I said, if you could go back and old Dave Hershey's first couple years in the league when he was at Plymouth, we were out at Western Reserve, and our good friend, and especially Hershey's good friend, Mark, we'll leave it at that, had made a call, and Hirsch went after him after the game and stuff. And I'm like looking for him, like, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And he was back there, and Hirsch is tearing him one way than the other, and finally gets back in the locker room. Did you hear that? No, I was back here where it was safe. And he proceeded to go on. I'm going to write to the commissioner. I'm going to write to the school. That was one of the first nights I had heard of a double foul. He come flying from the baseline with his arms out wide, and I'm thinking, what is he going to do? Take off and fly? What the hell? And you know what kind of game you've done. I said the only other thing is the night that I had worked a game over at Bellevue, and my partner ended up kicking a section of the Tiffin crowd out because he got hit in the cheek with a coin. We hold the game up for 15 minutes. Yeah. And then some clown decided to come in and get in our faces and stuff, and then they end up putting handcuffs on him and shipped him out the door. Come to find out, this guy was a retired, or I don't know if he was retired at the time, but he was a football referee, and that he was also the president of the Booster Club.
Oh, perfect.
And that don't tell you a whole lot.
As I watched that at the beginning, he was not moving well up that sideline that was right in front of us. And I thought, ooh, and there are a lot of, I'll tell you, down here, there are a lot of guys that are too old, too heavy to be officiating. And there's just not any fresh ones coming up. And
wonder why.
I think they stayed because of COVID. I think they stayed because they asked, and they're basically told that there's not enough people to do this here. And I saw a big game here in Seneca 3 years ago for the league championship, and those guys refereed a back and forth, high-speed girls game, and then they had 15 minutes before they started the boys game, and it was the same back and forth. And one guy was younger, but he wasn't very polished. The other two guys were older. One was way too old. But that girls' game took about 3/4 of the gas they had in their system out of them. And 15 minutes, 20, 25 minutes is tough to recover after a game like they had. And, coming down the stretch, there were some bad judgment calls made. And I just got a feeling that it was just too much for them. But what are you going to do? The best thing they could do for the whole situation is not play the boys and the girls games on the same night.
Right.
But that's what they do. And in the other gym at Seneca High School, they play the boys and girls JVs. So you got two younger guys generally over in that gym. And then these three guys, it was just too much. And that's what I think we had there. And, if that was the final buzzer, those guys should just bail out of there quickly. I see too many times where a lack of common sense in getting off the court, or somebody going through the crowd when you can go around them. Just get the hell to the floor. And, and if it's a situation where the crowd may be a problem, there should be some administrator there to make sure the policemen get on the court to get those guys if they're slow coming off or whatever. Escort them off the court. Escort them up the hallway. There's a lot of crazy things that we've seen the last couple of shows, and I've seen even more of them. You know, I've seen some from down around there's somebody in the Lima, Ohio area that has put some Delphus St. John games, you know, just questionable calls.
Yep, I
Stuff.
saw.
Is this right? Was this a travel? Should this have been a foul? That type of thing. Yeah, they're going to be calls that are missed, but you know, I always said I won't guess. You know, I'm not going to screw a kid because I guess. If I miss it, I miss it. But I'm not going to guess on a foul.
Don, we've never
if I get it wrong, I've screwed that kid.
No. And I'd say that pretty readily that none of us have been perfect at any case.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I don't think even saying that, I don't think that constitutes that kind of, you know, stuff.
No, absolutely not. There is no excuse for it. They should have taken that video and saw who the coach was that got the ball. And that's the guy that gets an assault charge for hitting that guy in the head. Because I don't think he's going to give it to one of his players after the game. He's going to either give it to another coach or an athletic administrator.
Yeah.
Who do you think now? Coaches, other coaches, administrators, or the guy that picked up the ball? Who do you think threw it? I mean, what would common sense tell you the first person to look at?
Right.
Question him. Is he going to throw it at is he going to say he gave it to somebody else?
How would you like to be?
Well, he's going to say that
if he wants to keep coaching there.
How would you like to be the officials assigner for that league and try to get guys to work in that gym?
Yeah.
Good luck, because you know I know there's certain gyms, and I'm not going to mention names because Don was kind of our assigner for basketball. There are certain gyms we didn't work in.
No.
And there was a reason for that. So, you know, like I said,
we did a game one time out there. You talk about being foul. We did a game. I think it was a Genoa, like Genoa and Lake Girls or something silly like that. And the Genoa, I think it was Genoa, had this big girl. I called her Big Susie just because she's a big girl. She's a big, tall girl.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
1,000-point scorer. She was like the main girl. And Lake had these little tiny mites girl. They had like 5 mighty mites, like 5'5", and they all just flying around the floor. They were fun to watch. And it was this big game. We had no idea, you know, when we're doing this game. I was working with Donnie Greaves, and I remember Donnie was with me only, you know, because of the end. So Big Susie makes a move in the third quarter, and she goes down, screaming, grabbing her calf. She's screaming. Oh my God! And the next thing I know, brother and father are coming out of the stands in the front row. They're sitting at half court. They come out and they shoulder and arm leg her and they carry her off. And there's this big cheer, and they got both her, you know, they're arm and a leg, and fans are. I didn't have a foul. She didn't hit anybody. I'm sitting there going, and the crowd's screaming at me, and they're all getting all fired up.
Sure.
Susie's screaming. So the game ended, and they ended up winning. I believe I remember right. We're walking down the hallway, and the brother starts fouling me. And he starts following me, and Don Greaves, and Don's an ex-Marine, thank God, and about 6'4", 6'5". Don turns to this guy and goes, "You don't want to do this." And I turned, and I didn't realize he was even back there. And thank God Don did. And I turned around and I looked at the guy, I go, "Dude," I said, "You don't want to do this." I said, one, I said, "You better be packing a pretty big lunch." I said, "You don't want to do this." So we showered, went home, you know, the whole 9 yards. And that, you know, and the next morning, Don Greaves sent me the article in the paper. That's why I know he was on it. Big Susie had a cramp. She didn't tear anything. She didn't turn anything. Big Susie was out of shape and had a cramp. And that's why her leg was, that's why she was screaming. She didn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
Yet the crowd was screaming, and I'm getting followed by the fan, by this brother, and the whole 9 yards, and sitting there going, I go, "Dude," and Don sent me this article, and he called me, and he was just laughing so hard. And I'm thinking, you know, it's like I, you know, as officials, you do everything right sometimes, and it still blows up in your face, and you just have to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but yeah, so it's always been. Don and I always laugh about that one, for God's sake. So
well, as we're wrapping this thing up tonight, I do want to. We always let our special guest tell us his favorite, funniest story.
Oh
So
gosh.
you go right, and don't worry, they won't kick us off of YouTube. It's fine. Just go ahead and let it rip.
Well, I guess the one that I always go to in terms of funniness is the night is we're at Oak Harbor, and we're doing, I don't remember if it's boys or girls. I think it was girls. And so I had to go early. And Chris Harkness was coming in late, and I can tell the story because he'll let me tell it. So we're coming in late, and we came in separate, which is unusual. Usually we go together. So we're out on the floor, and Hart comes walking in, and I'm like, all right, good to see you. Hey, get dressed. Let's go. So all of a sudden the AD comes out, and he taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, what? He goes, I come back here. And I'm like, all right. So he pulls a Borgia. He forgets his pants.
Oh!
Right?
I never forgot my pants.
You were shoes. You were the shoes guy.
Shoes.
Twice.
So
Twice.
Hark forgets. Hark is looking at me. He gave me one of these looks, and I'm like, I go, what's the matter? He goes, I forgot my pants. I go, well, just ref it. He had jeans on. I said, just ref in your jeans. He goes, I ain't doing it. And I go, dude, I said, you're gonna leave me out there by myself? It was me, and I don't remember who. I think it was Danny Lindsley. I said, but you can't leave us out there. And he goes, and I said, you know what? I said, I got good news for you. I said, I got dark blue pants that I wore to the game tonight. I said, go ahead and wear my dark blue dress pants, and we're gonna be fine. And he goes, okay. So he puts on these dark blue dress pants. They don't fit him. And I'm like, son of a. I said, Hark. I said, he goes, I said, you can't, And he goes, Al. He goes, give me your pants. I go, what do you mean, give me your pants? He goes, well, they're ref pants. They stretch. He goes, your dress pants fit you. He goes, give me your ref pants. I said, I am not giving you my ref pants because I wore the right shit, the right stuff, and I'm not doing this. And the buzzer rings. We can hear the buzzer. And I think Drew Grawl was in there with us at the time. Drew was the AD. And Drew goes, guys, make a decision. And I'm looking at Hark, and he's adamant. I know him. He is not going to do this. I know him. And I said, no. So I'm like, God. So I take off my pants. I throw in my pants. I get my dress pants. I put my dress pants on. He puts my ref pants on, and they fit him. There's given those things. So they fit him. And we walk out there, and the girls are sitting out there. It was girls. They were sitting out there waiting for the opening tip. And the announcer, God love him, the announcer, is smart Alec. He goes, nice to see the referees have their correct pants on tonight. And he said this on the announcer. And I looked at him and I said, I got my pants. I said, I got two. I said, I got mine. I said, and the crowd was laughing. Everybody was laughing and stuff. And I refereed that game in my blue dress pants, and I went Hark with my pants.
There you go, baby.
I remember calling, yeah. So that's probably my best
good
one, I guess.
Well, that's a good one. I'll tell you. I've got one in the book about pants. And unfortunately, it was with Mike Hyde. And with Mike, there was no chance.
Nobody's going to wear Mike's pants. You can't fit him.
Well, Mike was the one that had the problem. You can read it in the book. That's right. Pretty funny. And we're at South Central, and it's right before the game. And he's only got one pair of pants. And we're trying to figure out if we can get them sewn up so we can actually ref the damn game. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. It's in the book. It's hilarious. So, hey, guys.
I got one thing I got to say that in my last year as a varsity official, I got a call from Al wanting to know Hart couldn't make it and wanted to know if I'd go down to Ashland Crestview with he and Scott. And I said, absolutely. I thought this would be a great time to work with these guys after they're pretty well established and stuff. I said, who are they playing? And he says, St. Paul. And my thought is, oh boy, Vicky Mall. I refereed for her all 4 years of high school and the subsequent full 4 years of college, at least twice a year while she was at Heidelberg. And I said, I know exactly what I'm going to say to her. And I said, you guys can come on when I do it. When I went up to see her, I said, well, you can get 8 years of frustration taken out tonight because this is going to be it for me. I said, I haven't seen you in years. You saw so much of me for those 8 years you were a player. Have at it.
Oh, yeah.
We had a good time. I know I said thanks a couple times that night, but I really appreciated that call.
It's funny you say that because I was going through I'm digitizing all our old VHS crap and stuff. And I actually found a tape. It was for the Firelands Conference Championship, 2-man basketball. Our cousin Angie Kalashevsky Camp, she was a star player for St. Paul, and it was at St. Paul. And I found it, and I'm digitizing it and stuff. And she happened to come in, and Sherry was working on her that day. And I said, "Hey, I got a video with you and me in it." She goes, "Boy, that had to be old." I'm like, "Yeah, it was old, all right."
I don't know if you were at one of our end of season meetings over at Chet and Matt's pizza place in the back room, the last meeting of the year. I brought a tape of Dan Major and I working a game, St. Mary's and Huron. And 2 guys, one from each team, went to play Division I basketball after.
Oh, wow.
And Scotty Rusatz, and gosh, I can't think what the guy from Huron's name is off the top of my head. Wasn't prepared for this story, but the game was on Sandusky Cable, and so Rob Polinsky was broadcasting the game, and so I got a copy of it because of what he said during the game. And that, Dan Major and Dan's up there, standing right next to me. And he had about the same amount of hair I did, except he had that mustache that came down a little bit. And when he stood, sometimes he could look like he was mad at the world without being mad. He's one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. But as we're playing, I think we had a foul. We called a foul and went to free throw line. And Rob makes one of the best all-time remarks about me. He says to his partner, he says, "Oh, when you look at these 2 guys tonight, what word comes to mind?" And he says, "Gosh, Rob, I don't know." He goes, "Rogaine." So I've got that tape around here somewhere, VHS tape. And we took it to the meeting because it was a 2-man game, and that's back when you always worked, Cadillac, one way. You tried to avoid having to be on the other side on the baseline and all that stuff. I can't imagine that we were so narrow-minded that that's the way the Federation worked, Then later we could switch occasionally and stuff. But I was asking, what looks different about this? I think we had collared shirts on. So there was stuff that a lot of the younger guys hadn't seen. The way we work in 2-man, some of the mechanics were different. I think we were bird dogging. We called a foul. The other, we were bird dogging on a foul and stuff like that. There are a lot of things that were new to some of the younger officials that were old and out of it for us.
Well, I'll tell you guys, we're getting to about the end here. It's been a great show. I want to thank Al again for joining us, and hopefully we can have you back with Hart, which would be probably funny. I know it'd be funny. And again, I know I speak for the guys when I say, we couldn't be prouder of you guys. We say the same thing about Kurt and Ryan, and boy, you guys have carried the association and the banner farther than we ever thought you could. I know way better than we did.
Bar set low.
Well, yeah, us right here. The bar was really low right here.
There you go.
We weren't that great, and some of us were even unapproachable. I don't
I think that was you. Him up here.
That might have been me.
Yeah.
So, again, thanks again, Al. We appreciate you joining us. It was a great time having you.
All right.
Hey,
I enjoyed myself. I always enjoy it, guys.
All right.
Good.
See you later.
Stay healthy, guys.
Take care.
All right. Bye.